First of all, thank you very much for watching the previous video if you're a returning viewer.
It was really good to get some feedback from close friends and some people that managed to see the video. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go through my process for wanting to buy a sleeping mat and the sleeping mat that I did end up with. So we'll go into a bit more detail around my research process and also the things that I needed for me when it came to a sleeping system and a sleeping mat. So with the Nemo Tensor, I did take it out last weekend for a bit of a trip. Didn't go as I had planned,
but I'll talk a bit more about that at the other end of the video.
So last year I found myself getting outdoors a little bit more. And yeah, I think it started with a friend of mine asking me to go and do a cycle trip. Trying to train and get ready for that cycle trip, I did a few outings and went for a few hikes. And the sleep system I had been using was okay, but I am getting older and my back has really been giving me grief. And what I had been using
is this behemoth of a self-inflating
mat. So as you can see, it is quite round, quite big, and takes up a lot of space. The other downside of having one of these is there's not a lot of thickness to be lying on. And I'll show you that in a moment. And in doing more activities, I was finding that I was waking up with a sore back and generally in not such a great mood. And I thought that if I got my sleep system to a place where I could have great sleep no matter where I was, then I'd be able to enjoy my trips a lot more than I had been. So I did a cycle trip with my really good friend Nick, and we went from Copenhagen down to Hamburg. And I had been using this sleeping mat here, and unfortunately I punctured it on our second to last day. So I had a very flat, I guess, blanket, as it turned out to be, to sleep on. This one's stuffed. So then I started thinking about the things I wanted out of a sleeping mat. So I guess for me, I started looking where you guys are looking now, YouTube, and looking at different videos, and there's plenty out there of the different sleeping mats. And there's obviously many things that you need to consider when choosing a sleeping mat. So for me, I wanted comfort. So a little bit more comfort than what the self-inflating mat had been giving me. I also wanted a higher R value, some more insulation. Being in Denmark, it is quite cold for quite a bit longer, and just wanted to expand my sort of season for going out and doing activities a bit more. And the third thing is the size. So with the size, I wanted it a little bit smaller, just so there was less weight to carry and didn't take up too much space in my bags when going cycle touring, bike packing and hiking. So first of all, looking into comfort, I'm someone who's actually not very tall. I'm about 5'7", about 100 kgs, and that's something that I wanted to keep in mind while looking for a sleeping mat. I was finding that my hips were digging into the ground on the self-inflating mat, so I would need a little bit extra height, and also something that was a little bit wider as well, making sure I didn't roll off. And I guess lastly, in regards to comfort, I wanted something long enough that my head would not drop off the top or my feet going off the end. I guess, yeah, being 5'7", shouldn't be too much of an issue, but that was something that I was considering. In regards to insulation, I wanted something that was a bit more all season, something with a higher R value. Yeah, so I wanted an insulation with an R value of above 4 in a sleeping mat, and I guess there's a few other brands out there that do that really well. So you've got your Thermarests, you've got your X-Beds, things like that. So keeping in mind I wanted something with a higher R value, that was probably going to be a little bit bigger, maybe a little heavier than going something super small. So in doing my research, I found that the best sort of balance for me was the Nemo Tensor. The things I was looking at there was the pack size, the weight, the R value, and also that comfort being, I think, was roughly 3 inches off the ground. So with the brand Nemo not being very big here in Europe, it was actually really hard to source the particular mat that I do have. But I was in Hamburg a few months ago and went to an outdoor store there and they happened to stock it. And we went back down to the Christmas markets in December and I went in and purchased it there. I guess one of the key things that you do need to do when you are looking for a sleeping mat is actually go and try as many as you can. Getting out into the physical stores, I know they're becoming a little bit more thin here in Europe and other places around the world, but when you can, try and get into the store and compare the different brands and the different sizes. We went into a few outdoor stores and this particular one had it in there, and I actually tried it next to a few different others. So there was a Thermarest, which was quite a bit more expensive, but very light and very noisy. This is the one that I ended up with. We'll just go over the box quickly here. So we have the Nemo Tensor insulated long and wide, which is the one I opted for. Again, I wanted enough width and enough length to not fall off the mat at any stage. So we have here that it is 3 inches thick. It is 595 grams. And it was 193 centimeters long. I'm only out of 173 by 64 wide and an R value of 4.2. And they do say on the box here that it is an all-season mat. I guess moving around the box, the key things that they've got here is that it's quiet and stable, 0 profile valves. So with the Nemo Tensor, they do suggest on the box here that it does have a lifetime warranty. I haven't used it enough to find out how that works. And that's, I guess, a reason for myself why I bought it. So what we get in the box is the sleeping mat. I guess to show a bit of a comparison. So here's what I have been using, and here's the new one there. A little bit close up there. So there's quite a difference there.
It does come in a bag here, which I've taken it in and out a few times so far, and it is very easy to get it back down to a size that it will fit in the bag very easily.
What we get in the bag here is obviously the mat, and it comes with this Velcro strap, which I find very useful, especially when you roll it back up and you want to get it back into the bag. You just put it around and it makes it a lot easier to control. So as I mentioned earlier, me and my girlfriend went away for an overnight last weekend, and yeah, it hadn't really panned out as I wanted. So as I've mentioned a few times, living here in Denmark in January can get quite cold, but we have been experiencing quite a mild winter this year, and I've been keeping an eye on the temperatures, and it was going to be above zero, and I'd done above zero here before and been quite comfortable with the gear that I had. So on Friday afternoon, we had our bags packed, jumped on the train, and went out to our start point for our walk and our overnight. So we got out there at about 8 o'clock and pitched the tent and found it was getting really cold. So we got all our stuff out, prepared dinner, ate dinner, and we went to bed essentially. And I thought it was going to be around 0 degrees, just on freezing. I woke up in the middle of the night, needing to go to the toilet, and I was very cold. This is something I've only experienced a handful of times, and actually feel very bad that I hadn't prepared myself. Went back to bed after going to the toilet, woke up the next day, in the middle of the night, I put a down jacket on, I put another beanie on, I was already wearing some thermal underwear, top and bottom. So I think the issue I had there was definitely not the sleeping mat. The sleeping mat was very comfortable, didn't have any issues with that. I think the issues I had there were around the placement of the tent. We'd put the tent on some wet clay mud, which was very, very cold after freezing. So that drew a lot of heat out. And my sleeping bag is a 3 seasons. So some things I could have done to prevent being cold was take a closed cell foam mat and put it underneath. Secondly, I should have taken a sleeping bag liner, which would have given me a few more degrees there, and also just upgrading my sleeping bag, which is something I'm prepared to do in the future. But all in all, after I had my coffee, had some breakfast, and we got packed up and moved again, it was actually a really good overnight. So I guess to sum up, I am actually very happy with the mat so far. So I do need to go out and use the Nemo Tensor a bit more before I can give a more rounded opinion of the sleeping mat. But I just wanted to talk today around sort of the thought process, what was important to me, and some things that you might need to think about when buying a sleeping mat. So if you'd like to see the follow-up video, I'll probably bring that out after summer. And again, thank you very much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and